What is up, everybody, and welcome to another week of the Browns podcast, the Bearded Browns podcast. I was in a hurry for that one. Wow. Won't let that happen again until next time. Yeah, we have a lot to talk about today. We've got a big weekend ahead of us as well. It's 4th of July weekend. Anybody got any big plans?
Nah. Yeah. Well, I'm going to Coal Lake Firehouse and probably watch fireworks until they're done. I mean, typical family stuff for me.
I'm doing
Fireworks.
nothing for me.
Nothing at all.
Drinking beers.
Man.
I mean,
I hear you. I mean, we're going to a friend's house for a cookout, and then, I mean, honestly, at this point, I've seen fireworks so many times, and I don't have kids to celebrate them. So there's a very good chance that when fireworks are getting ready to go, we're going to be
good to go. Saturday, we're doing that. We're going to a buddy's and having a couple of beers, and the fireworks are literally, the park is right in front of his house in Spencer, so we watch. We get like the best seats. It's awesome. So,
out here in San Diego, I had a like 8 or 9 year run of watching the fireworks go off the Ocean Beach Pier, which is like a block from my house. So we just always walk down to the beach, lay out blankets. And now that this past year we moved out of Ocean Beach, I'm like, we did it so many times, and we're not going to do something better than that. So I'm all on board with this. Like,
look, this is Chad rubbing it in.
My era of like fun beach fireworks are over. I'm just gonna go home now. No point in trying.
So we have a new look to the show. We hope it looks better for everybody. Change the look a little bit. Hopefully it changes the morale of the show. I like it. It's a little bit simpler. There'll be no more ads during the show running, but you could look down there and you see our ads are scrolling across the screen. So feel free to contact Allstate, Doug White, Allstate Insurance Agency, and CB Excavating. They will take care of you guys no matter what you need.
Yeah, and don't let that discourage anyone from wanting to run an ad with us. That's still open for business down the line here.
Yes. We're just changing it up because we want more time with you guys, meaning more talk time.
Yes, and we're looking for a beard company and a beer company to sponsor us. That'd be awesome.
Yeah, I mean that would
be that's kind of the jam.
Yeah, that would be running good with the show, I guess. Yeah.
You guys didn't get the memo for the show today to wear something somewhat patriotic?
Yeah, what's funny is I didn't wear anything. I just looked at it and I was like, I'm not wearing anything Browns, and I'm also not wearing anything like 4th of July. Like, what a waste I am.
Me too.
I'll take care of it. I got it covered, guys.
That's weak sauce.
Yeah.
So let's get right into it. Everybody wants to know what's going on with Amari Cooper and his contract. Real quick, I want to touch base with this. Not much. He's not happy. He's happy, I think, in Cleveland, to be honest. But the contract that I think Andrew Berry offered him was not what he was looking for.
He said that he wants to be paid.
How do you guys feel? I felt like that paid. I felt like that I'm trying to get paid quote got spun a little bit. Do you guys feel like that, or you guys kind of like? I felt like it was, the context was, hey man, I'm not gonna race some dude or do something stupid to hurt myself like right while I'm in contract talks trying to convince a team to like sign me for more. Like that would be so stupid. So I kind of took that I'm trying to get paid quote as like a positive of him being like, I'm too smart to like hurt myself while I'm negotiating. That's never gonna happen. But a lot of people spun it as like, oh, he must want a ton of money because he used the phrase, I'm trying to get paid. I took it more as like, I'm negotiating right now, so I can't mess around.
Yeah, I didn't think about it that way, but yeah, that makes sense. I would agree that he should get paid and not hurt, and then not get paid. I mean, that would hurt him literally in his pocket.
I was wondering you guys' take. Oh, no, go ahead, because I'm wondering your guys' 2 thoughts on this.
So
about him getting paid, because I think all 3 of us have mentioned this before, and all 3 of us would like to keep him, right?
Absolutely.
So my question from you two, or what I'm kind of wondering if you're on the same page as me, because I've kind of gone back and forth with a bunch of fans in the last 2 weeks about this and being realistic about it. When we all say we want him to get paid, what are you guys willing to pay him?
All right. First and foremost, I think he's one of the most humble guys in the NFL. I don't want to use the word stingy because he's not being stingy. You see people like Calvin Ridley getting paid bigger money. And yes, you're going to want that. You still have a year left with the Cleveland Browns making $20 million. Do you rush that contract? Yes, you get the word out. You know what I mean? That you want more money. I would say give him $10 million more a year, maybe on all right, $30 million for 2 years, $60 million.
A lot. Okay.
It is, but that's if you want to keep a good receiver, that's 1,000 yards. Plus, maybe with Deshaun Watson being healthy, could be more this year. You never know. That's a risk we got to be willing to take.
What about you, Angel?
Yeah, 30 seems a lot. I don't know if I would do 30. I don't know if I would do more than 2 years. And I think he's looking for 3 years. I don't think he's looking for 2. And I think that's where they're stuck at. So I would
think
answer
the
your
word that
question.
came down to back what you just set up. I think the word that came down was the Browns. Some insider had reported, and it looked like it was pretty good news source, that the Browns had offered to pay him this year and increase his salary and give him 1 additional year. And the agent came back with, we're looking for
More.
a 2-year extension, so 3 total. And that's where they got stuck. Not so much on the money, but how long they would pay him. So
You also have incentives. There could be big incentives. Pro Bowl, 1,000+ yards.
Sure.
You make so much more.
But
he
as
did
a
say he
player,
wants guarantees, right?
yeah. So as a player, they know incentives how they work. They you get guaranteed. Oh yeah, we'll give you incentives, and then like all of a sudden the team doctor says you can't play the last 2 games because you're 1 touchdown away from getting an extra million or 2. Or I mean, they can work the offense to manipulate your numbers to where you're not hitting that incentive. I know it sounds crazy and that's conspiracy theorist, but I've no players complained about that
people say
before.
the same thing.
Yeah.
My thoughts were pretty similar. I think 30 is a little high for me, unless you want to give him 30. I don't know where they'll find it, but this year, because this year I do expect at age 30, he'll probably be pretty darn good still. At 31, that's when most receivers fall off. Let's just be optimistic and say he's not one of those. He's one of those like 5% who can play when he's 31. I still don't really want him to be making more than $25 million a year if you can pull that off. And if you're going to give him that last year, that's when I'd say like we'll guarantee this small amount and the rest has to be incentive based, because at 32, there's only been a couple receivers in all of history who were productive, and so I'm worried about giving somebody 25+ million for a year where you're just not knowing if you're going to get, like, just being hopeful. But I'm kind of in between the two. I see like the Mike's like positive side, like you got to keep him, you got to make it happen, and yours of like being cautious. But I guess that's why it's above our pay grade.
Yeah.
So.
Good luck, Barry.
Yeah. So
All right.
Let's move on to Nick Chubb. He's got a new contract with incentives, huge incentives. Obviously, he took a pay cut. He is going to still make money. And if he does play this year, there's huge incentives in his contract. What do you guys think about that? I mean, that's another big one.
I mean, that's just a safety net. I think that's an incentive-based contract, because like the fear was they were going to have to cut him because you don't even know when he'll be back this year. And it was kind of a compromise. Like, we won't cut you and you'll get some guarantees. And if you do get yourself back here earlier than expected, you can earn it all back. And if you don't, we kind of protect ourselves, and by not giving you a whole year's salary when you might only play half or less. So
Yeah,
that one just seems
to
work for both sides.
Yeah, I think both sides win on that, and I think he's working his way to get that money. Because from what I read, he's recording himself. He's going to put a documentary out of his injury, his recovery process. So I'm anticipating him coming back this year because he probably wants to make money on a documentary too. You know what I mean? He's
he is
promoting.
doing that Road to Recovery
Yeah,
documentary.
he's doing it. Yeah. No, I think that's a good move on both parts. I think that's definitely a good move on the Browns. You don't want to handcuff yourself. Thankfully, they didn't listen to the fans on that and sway by the emotional fan base we have.
Yeah, we can talk about the emotional fan base for hours. I think we've actually talked about it a couple times throughout these last 2 weeks.
Yeah.
I got called a homer by Chad,
He did.
and it was my last year's
You're not the
NFL
only one.
AFC predictions.
There's a lot. There's a lot of homers out there.
Yep.
But yeah, got plenty to talk about tonight. Tonight is our last night on players, and who's going to possibly make that 53-man roster. We got the offensive line left and cornerbacks. Man, I don't want to jump into it just yet, but I'm letting everybody know what we're talking about. And yeah, anything else you guys got for right now? Because I don't want to jump into it yet. Save the good stuff for a little bit later. We got about 8 minutes left of pure anarchy.
No, I'm ready to get started, but I mean, I feel that this Cooper situation will hopefully get solved sooner than later. It makes me a little nervous. I'm torn because it's like, you don't want to pay a guy past 30, man. You know, we have so much money tied up in our quarterback. Do you want to tie it up in somebody who's going to give you a year or two? You know, that's my worry. And I'm afraid that the Browns might either base himself into a 3-4 year contract. But
So we've had this.
The honest truth is, this group though is not super fan driven, and they've been
True.
aside from the big jump on Watson, obviously. Besides that quarterback move, they've been pretty
smart. Yeah.
Smart with this roster.
Yeah.
I remind everybody with Amari, a big thing we talked about, like, and the reason I brought you guys into like the question of like what would you give him, I'm seeing fans on Twitter posting like, oh, you got to pay this guy, you're stupid, and I will say, okay, well, just give me a hypothetical. How much are you looking to pay him? They're like, how about 20 this year, 20 next year, and 15 after? And I'm like, so you're looking to give him a pay cut. He's wanting a pay raise, and you're saying how stupid they are to pay him, and then you want to actually give him a decreased contract by 25%. Like,
what? How this works?
Yeah, of course they're stupid if they don't sign that, but he's not going to sign that. Or then somebody's like, give him 3 years, like $90 million, and I'm like, dude, if you think it's that easy to just pop out $90 million and make him the second highest paid player on the team, you don't think people are saying like, oh, he's mad because Judy got paid. You don't think Myles Garrett is going to want a little bit of money if you pay a 30-year-old Amari Cooper $90 million? Or you don't think, people like David and Joker are going to go like, I'm kind of younger than him, and I've been. You don't want to create this thing where you're throwing just anything at someone because you're desperate, and then everybody else is looking around like, well, where's my piece? Like,
not only that, think about this: Jerry Jeudy, new to the Browns. Say he shows up this year. He's only making what, $17 million a year. So say Jerry Jeudy shows up this year.
That's his like. That's not his guarantee. That's his like max. I believe.
But say next year, after he plays good this year, say if he plays well, he shows up. What is he going to ask for in the next year? Could he ask?
That's why I don't want to set the precedent of like every time somebody plays well, you have to change their contract. Because every time somebody plays poorly, you don't go to them and say, hey, we want you to find your contract in half.
I want a refund.
Yeah. Nobody looked at Jedrick Wills after a second year and was like, yeah, we actually want you to take only like 2/3 of your money because you weren't that good last year. Yeah. You signed the contract, sure. If you sign a 1 year or 2 year deal for $9 million and then you become the best receiver in the league, you can say, hey, I did something so far out of what we expected. Let's talk. Yep. But you don't want to make it a habit for everybody. So you gotta balance. You gotta keep your guys happy, and you gotta make sure you don't just try to throw money at every single situation to put yourself in a hole that tons of these teams have found themselves in, where it's like you only put yourself in that hole if this is a all in this year or we're done type of a season, like the Rams did at one point. There's got to be times where you say, hey, we have a pretty young team. We have a pretty talented team. We're looking more at a 3-year run to try to make the Super Bowl, not just this year or bust. So I just think everybody should keep that in mind when it comes to Amari. And I do think they'll get something done, but that's why there's a question, because there's got to be some balance.
So my other question while we're on the receiver subject is, in the future, do you think this is going to affect other teams moving ahead because of the big money contracts that are coming up with wide receivers? Everybody's paying their quarterbacks and wide receivers now. That's the big thing. Is that going to affect, you think, the whole league as a whole? Every team? Like
I just
Brandon
think it's
Ayuk.
going to be. I just think this is the reason I don't like to talk about this much, is because this is an every year topic. Every year, everyone at every position signs the biggest deal in history. And newsflash, every year that person is not the best player in the league. They're just the person whose contract came up.
Is up.
So
Yeah.
like Justin Jefferson signed this new deal, and it was like an incredibly big deal because for a very rare time, a player who was up for a contract also happens to be the youngest, best player at that position. But most of the time, that's not how it happens. Like David Njoku at one point was this incredibly paid tight end, and he was nowhere near the best in the
Yeah.
league. They're just paying it early and hoping, to get ahead of it. Or they're like, oh my gosh, Daniel Jones makes so much money. And it's like, well, he signed a contract, later than Patrick Mahomes and eventually Tua will sign one, and that one will be bigger. And so it just seems like it's always the case, and every year it throws everybody by surprise. Like, how could this guy be getting paid so much?
True.
I had to mute my mic for a sec. I live in LaGrange and I never hear sirens, but today, now that we're doing a show, boom, sirens are happening.
It's a dangerous place.
No, it's not.
Not typically.
You live in California. Come on.
Not dangerous here.
No.
So
San Diego.
David Njoku right now, 2024 cash, he made $14.5 million. That's not bad for a tight end. And if that guy keeps on showing up like he has been, if he plays again last year like he did, or I'm sorry, if he plays again this year like he did last year, do you think we got our money out of Njoku?
Maybe. Yeah.
I think we got our money out of him last year for the only time.
Yeah. So we'll see. We'll see what he does this year. Sorry. I think he's gonna progress. I think he's gonna get better. And I think he'll have at least one more contract with us, hopefully, at least.
Yeah.
But we'll see. He's got to stay consistent, though.
All right. Since I'm running the timers today, we are now at about 15 minutes, and we have not gotten to our first topic. So I'm just going to say, I feel like we should eventually start with a show written topic.
Listen, we're at 19 minutes and 9 seconds right now, but that's without the intro. So,
and do we have a 15-minute topic, a 20-minute topic, and a 15-minute topic? So I feel
we got plenty of topics. We can go on for hours. We know this. Everybody that watches the show knows we can go on for hours. But
we won't.
Yeah, we're not going to do that. We're going to try to stick to an hour tonight. We're going to try.
Try to.
Then let's roll.
We've got high hopes.
Yeah, next topic. There's two corners, right? We do corners first?
Yes.
That's salivating at the
Who
corners.
wants to talk about the Cleveland Browns cornerbacks?
Let's start. I'll say something. Ward, Newsome, and MJ are good corners, right? That's a good threesome. You would think? No
I
one
know.
agrees. Okay.
Just about everybody. I don't think it's a secret. This is not an underrated cornerback room.
No.
I have written here. I always try to look up whenever we're going to talk about these groups. I always try to look up, all of us do for the most part, rankings from different sites. So I always try to cover PFF since I have a subscription with them, and then we looked at a couple other sites just to see where they were. And the three sites I found were Bleacher Report has the Browns going into 2024 as the third best overall cornerback room, counting all three cornerbacks. ESPN has them even higher as at number 2 as the best duo in the league. And the duo that they went to was Martin Emerson and Ward, they were only doing the best 2 outside corners. They weren't counting nickel. They did mention Greg Newsome in the blurb about them, saying that, along with having these 2 incredible press cover corners, they also have a terrific slot corner. And then I looked up the numbers on PFF just to see how these guys were rated coming out of last year and into this year. And they have Denzel Ward as cornerback 17, Greg Newsome as cornerback 24, and MJ Emerson as quarterback 34. So if you're thinking of the fact that they're rating that they rate basically the trio of corners, your 2 outside corners and your nickel, these numbers are coming out of about 96 or so expected starters in the league, and you've got 3 guys that are 34 or better, 17, 24, and 34. So you have the entire third of the league. I mean, most of these teams will be lucky to have one in the top 10, one in the 40s, and one in the 70s. And you've got, somebody in the teens, somebody in the 20s, and somebody in the 30s based on last year's scoring. So from the look of all of those, I'm sure the consensus is pretty clear. This is a pretty badass trio of cornerbacks that I think Browns fans should be pretty excited about.
First and foremost, I want to tell everybody I live in a badass neighborhood, according to Chad. The lowest passing rating allowed, you got number 1 is Jalen Johnson from the Bears, Denzel Ward from the Browns, Martin Emerson Jr. from the Browns, and L'Jarius Sneed from the Chiefs. Those are the top 4 passing rating allowed.
Interesting.
A lot of people weren't really caught by Martin Emerson, and I know we had this linebacker talk the other day, or cornerback talk the other day. I love the guy. He has, I think, only let 400 and something yards allowed with 2 touchdowns. And this is me going off mental notes, which are horrible right now. So, but he's phenomenal. What is it? This is going to be his 3rd year in the NFL, correct?
Yeah. It actually, from the PFF perspective, not that that's the only thing to look at, because to me, the negative, the thing that PFF misses is it's looking for like an overall picture and consistency on every play. So somebody that either misses some plays or has a weak spot may grade a little bit lower, but it doesn't. But all plays are not created equal to me, right? So to me, a play where he's playing press coverage one-on-one against T. Higgins is more important to me, what he can do in that situation versus just his general all year going into, he's not the world's greatest zone corner because he's not as high of a quickness as some of the other guys, and he's also still pretty young and learning to anticipate the game and routes and concepts. So I think that's where it falls a little bit short, but the overall picture, they still have him as a pretty good cornerback in both years in his career. He actually was graded a little bit higher in his role in 2022, and I think had a little bit more difficulty with that in 2023. But I think what people got excited about in 2023, and fairly so, was in 2023 was when he got put as like, you are going to be a lone outside corner on some of these situations, and you're going to have to go against the big kid. Like Greg Newsome is going to be sliding in the slot, and you're going to be covering T. Higgins or, some of these other like big name wide receiver 2s, or even wide receiver 1s who happen to be a better matchup because of maybe size compared to Denzel Ward. Maybe they're not as quick, but they are. So Denzel slides to that side, but they're just bigger, a little bit more of a ball dominant, X type receiver. And he was able to handle that. And to me, that's why his upcoming year and his previous year is a little better than what I think PFF would even score him. I lean a little more to what Mike just showed about his coverage grade and his passer rating when thrown against for kind of his role with this offense.
I guess. I'm sorry. Go ahead, Angel.
I guess I'm kind of confused why Newsome is graded higher than him.
I would say because there's two possibilities. Number one, Newsome's covering the slot, so
Easier.
They're not grading against his, well, in some cases, if we play the Rams, it's not easier because Cooper Kupp's coming out of there, right? But in most teams that we played a lot of strong outside receivers. You're playing, T. Higgins and Jamar Chase coming out of Cincinnati. You're playing Pickens against the Steelers twice a year, and he's a big receiver that Emerson is probably going to have to cover. So one of it might have been that maybe we didn't play the craziest slot receiver, so he had a little bit of an easier task. The other thing is it's just more even. I mean, I think most people are remembering how he got burnt in that Texas game, which isn't even included in these rankings because they're like a regular season scoring. Right. You can look at the playoffs separately, but this is just the regular season scoring. But also for the season, it wouldn't be shocking to me, who kind of thinks that Greg Newsom's a little bit underrated in Cleveland by Clevelanders, to think that Greg Newsome was just a little more even player and a little more consistent than Emerson. Don't forget, Emerson, he led the league in pass interference penalties last year. I think he had 10. So it's not like he doesn't have lapses, right, where he misses. But like I said, at certain positions like wide receiver, cornerback, pass rusher, sometimes your PFF grade doesn't show the big plays that change the game, like an interception. That's a good grade, but it's one play. However, it can change the whole game. But you don't get super extra times 10 grading for that play. It's still just you did really well you got an A on that one play, not like, so that's where it can kind of fall short. So when you have certain positions like running back or receiver or cornerback or safety, where sometimes they can play a little up and down game uneven, but they can make one or two giant plays, a hit for a fumble or an interception. It changes the game, and their overall performance was much more impactful than their down by down grade. So that's all I say about PFF, of being cautious of the grade on positions where a guy can make a huge, like Pickens is a really good player. I wouldn't be shocked if his grade on PFF wasn't the highest because he's inconsistent. But when he catches a 70-yard touchdown, it doesn't matter that he didn't run a good route on 2 plays before that.
Yeah,
that made up for it and more. That's where my caution comes in.
I don't want to spend our whole time here on MJ Emerson, but I do want to
he's
say a couple
worth
things.
it.
He's worth it. He's had 4 interceptions.
But he's a third round pick, and that's why I often forget that I don't think he plays like a third round. I mean, I guess now that you say that he does, he had a little pass interference issue. Maybe he does slip back.
He's got room to improve. I think sometimes we look at a third round pick and we go, oh, he's incredible because we got him in the third round, but he's not playing like a first round. I mean, he's not playing like Denzel Ward, who was a legit first round star, right, at that position, and has been consistently. People still reference his injuries. He still misses 3-4 games here and there. But I think the big stuff that held him back early in his career has been past. And he's a legit star, and he can help with some of the fastest players in the league. And that really helps your entire group, because then you can start to play matchups. You can say, well, they have a slot receiver who can do this, or they have Jamar Chase who's moving around the field. Let's have Denzel go with him. Or it opens you up to trying to maximize what Emerson can do. And realistically, like I said, PFF-wise, because of some inconsistency, he actually had a little bit of a down year last year. Coverage-wise, one-on-one, he had an incredible year.
Man-to-man, that's what I was going to say.
Those two things together.
Man-on-man coverage for him is phenomenal. He's great. Zone, not too much. He seems to get broken away from a little too hard, and I do not like that about him. But you got to take into consideration he's got a new defensive coordinator, and he's trying to work out of what he was used to.
Yeah.
This is his third year.
It's easier for somebody like Denzel, who's had 5 defensive coordinators, and it's just throw whatever at me, I can handle it. This is a guy who came in the league, found his footing, got in the starting lineup earlier than anybody expected. Remember, we drafted Newsome in the first round.
Yeah.
Emerson was not supposed to come in and by his second year be the outside corner in 2 receiver sets. But by the end of last year, that's exactly what was happening when all 3 of them were healthy. So,
and he is phenomenal. I don't want to spend all the time on him. honestly, he's probably not the best one out of the room, but I think we talked about it numerous times where it takes a guy to come into the NFL 2 or 3 years to get an actual good grade on a person. It just doesn't happen overnight. We know this. It doesn't happen in a year. It doesn't happen in 2 years. For some it does, but it for him it does not. And I'm hoping this year he comes and shines. And he had 4 interceptions last year. I think the most on the Browns. That's
and so you know he can make big plays. He also had a lot of pass breakups, as did Denzel Ward, and I think that's where kind of those two get the spotlight when it comes to things. But like I said, I think Greg Newsome is also underrated. I think a lot of people just see the Greg Newsome seems like he's underperforming for a first. Emerson seems like he's overperforming for a third. And so they just completely over exaggerate where they belong. But it's hard not to. We'll talk a little bit. There's other positions where we do that too. But I just think it's important to understand how important it is to have 3 great receivers, because the general fan base keeps saying get Greg Newsome out of here. We have Emerson now. And it's you sort of make the best of Emerson when you also have Greg Newsome to cover the slot. But also it's just it's a great trio, and I won't be shocked if they find a way to keep Newsome, because he's going to be up for a contract, I believe, after this year. But if you can't do that, I guess it does feel good to know you're only going into Emerson's 3rd year out of a 4-year potential deal. So what's interesting is, so I'm looking at my expected roster, and so last year the Browns kept 6 cornerbacks, which is, I actually thought it was more, but I guess it wasn't. So it looks like Denzel Ward made the team last year. He's a lock, right? Greg Newsome's a lock. Martin Emerson is a lock. I thought Cameron Mitchell came in and showed enough last year. He's their own draft pick, and he kind of also outperformed his draft status. I can't imagine they're not going to try to keep building off of that. So I put him down as a lock, which means there's 2 spots left if they stay status quo. And here are the guys that are on the Browns roster that are potential to make that spot. A high one would be Vincent Gray. He is a guy that we took from the Rams after a season, but I believe he still is fair age. And then Khalif Halisi, I think, was somebody they really liked.
You can say it right. It's Halassi.
Is it Halassi? They plucked him off of the Chiefs practice squad last year, and I feel like I remember seeing beat reporters reporting how ecstatic they felt like they were to get their hands on him. And some word was that the Chiefs thought they could kind of cut him, sneak him out of the practice squad, and the Browns were nope.
I'm Andrew Berry. I know who he is.
Yeah, he's on our radar, and he's not going anywhere. They both played limited snaps last year for their respective teams, but Vincent Gray, in only 44 defensive snaps, scored a 73.5 in PFF. Very small sample size, but that's promising. And then Halassi scored a 67, but played over 100 snaps. Also pretty promising for that kid. So wouldn't be shocked if that's the way it falls. But then there's also Justin Hardy, Miles Harden, who's a rookie that they brought in from the 9th round this year. Deshaun Gales, who's a rookie that they picked up as an undrafted free agent. And then Tony Brown also, but last year he was absolutely abysmal. So I think that's a pretty long shot.
Yeah.
I was going to bring up Justin Hardy. I think he's going to be just a special teams guy.
Could be, yeah.
That's got to make the roster first.
Oh, yeah, if he makes the roster, for sure.
Yep. Yeah. That's going to hurt him. He's got to be able to. They got to feel comfortable that he could get out there if they need him. Although they are pretty deep at this position now, right?
Oh yeah.
Yeah, if you're a corner, man, that's going to be tough.
Somebody's saying you guys are echoing. Yeah. You guys don't have the echo up on your mixers, do you?
Hello.
Now you're echoing.
No, I don't. My echo is down.
I don't know. Maybe it's just my buddy. He's He's not the brightest guy in the world. I'm kidding.
Tell him to turn up his hearing aid.
No, it's fine. We can play. I played around with him a little bit, see if that helps.
Yeah, I think we're good. I mean, I hear you guys fine. So, Paul says he does hear an echo.
Oh, Paul, why did you say that? Keep it to yourself next time. You got mess up the whole show.
Anybody got their speakers on by chance?
You're messing with our flow.
Mm-mm.
No.
All right. Well, keep on talking. I will mess with that.
That's going to be tough to make this team at corner. Then I mean, you got 4, maybe 5 that they're gonna. That's a lock. So you may basically have 1, maybe 1.5 type of position to make. That's gonna be a tough.
Yeah,
It's
it's
gonna
just
be
that
a
we don't have many positions where there's like
for sure.
maybe 2 camp battle spots open, but not only is there like 6 or 7 guys that are competing for that spot, 2 of them are Browns rookies and 2 of them are free agents they pulled in last year or poached from another team that they obviously feel like we brought them in, they're our guys. So it's going to be tough. And the good news about the rookies though, like one's a 7th rounder, one's a undrafted free agent. They're probably both off the radar, which means they're probably pretty good candidates if they show up at training camp to just get slid to the practice squad, and teams probably aren't looking to poach 9th and 10th rounders, basically. Or I'm sorry, 7th and 8th rounders. I call it draft free agency.
Yeah, 8th
One
rounder.
big
Yeah,
draft,
makes sense.
9th
But
so basically.
that could
7th
be
and 8th.
something to watch during camp.
But you know the Browns. If Miles Harden shows up and they're like, "Whoa, this kid's doing kind of what Cam Mitchell did last year,"
We're gonna.
sorry, Vincent Gray, like you may not be a lock. You got it. All these guys are gonna have to show up.
That's crazy how we're having this talk when years ago we would just be like, "Is this dude, this unrestricted free agent, going to make the team? I hope he does. He looks good at
Begging
Cam.
for a
His
6th rounder to
speed.
come starter.
He
All
made
right,
5
yeah.
interceptions."
We passed our time limit. So we got
Yeah.
any
Next.
closing thoughts?
No, we got 2 minutes, a minute and 30 seconds left.
1 minute.
Hopefully that echo is done.
No, it's not. There's nothing here that's showing you guys are echoing, but it's clearly going out as an echo. Monitor off, and I won't be able to hear you. Monitor and output. I don't get it. But we're just gonna move forward. Chad is not frozen. Never mind. It's something here. I don't know.
I'm just playing with the mixer, seeing if anything kind of jumped off.
I hear myself now.
Oh, now I hear it.
Yeah, there's definitely an echo.
I just heard it when you were talking, Mike.
Yeah, I heard myself. That was weird. Like a weird playback.
Yeah, Chad is echoing for sure. You're not echoing.
I guess you guys are both echoing. I'm not.
Well, we're echoing.
Oh,
That's great news. Wow, we're
maybe
making
that
great
might stop
time.
it. Huh.
Yeah,
Let's
you
see if
found
that
it.
stop it.
Hold on. I'll tell you. Give me a second.
Yeah. It's not a real show without technical difficulties.
Yeah. Is there still an echo going on for me?
Yeah.
There is. Okay.
Oh, here we go. Try it now. Try it now. One more time.
Okay. Let's see if this is echoing.
Sorry, I was in delay. But yeah, that no echo.
No echo. Cool.
We're good.
So there's
What
one,
happened? What'd you have
one
to fix?
there's one stupid thing. So when I do record videos, like off of something else, I have to turn the audio on for the computer, and when it goes to the mixer and goes back to the computer, it's like a delay. It sends it twice because it's picking up desktop audio and the mixer audio.
Oh, that's odd. Okay,
That's-
well,
Yeah.
you made me sound like a dummy for the entire first half of the podcast.
Yeah,
Great.
There's like,
Now we can move on to the offensive line.
Yeah, this is where I'd rather be talking
Yeah.
about anyway.
Next one is offensive line, right? So we got PFF has its number 4, and ETR. What does that mean?
Yeah, which is Establish the Run, which is
Oh,
a website
Establish-
I followed for a pretty long time. And I thought Establish the Run seems like a pretty good source for who has a good offensive line.
Sorry, Dylan.
ETR. Man, I gotta look up these terms, so I'm not asking what is ETR. Well, that's good. That's a good ranking, eh? 4
And
and
I would
3.
just say this: I put those two because PFF I always check, and
I like PFF anyway.
Establish the Run is a very good sort for this. When I tried to look up offensive line rankings in a lot of other places, what they had were like guard rankings, tackle rankings, or player by player rankings. But everywhere I found, the Browns are somewhere. I think the lowest I saw the Browns offensive line was like 8. So they're in the top 10, we'll say top 8, all over the map. So much like the cornerback room, it's a pretty consensus. This is a top unit in the NFL, kind of a unit. Kind of funny that we ended on these two because I think these are the two units where we actually
Are
ranked
good.
the highest in the NFL. And then for those that did like edge rushers, we were also way up top. But like as a large full unit, these two are kind of where the Browns kind of really make their money.
That is our offensive line there. You can see that. I put up the thing you sent me, Chad.
Shared on screen. Nice. Technology is amazing.
Yeah, not if you're echoing, it's not.
Who has this? And no other sports show has this on your screen.
Yes. So our offensive line consists of left tackle Jedrick Wills. Excuse me, guys. Our left guard Joel Bitonio. Our center Ethan Posick. Yes, it is Posick. Right guard Wyatt Teller. And right tackle Jack Conklin. And you could include the tight end David Njoku there because that guy can block.
He does do some blocking. That he actually came around big time in his blocking grades over the last couple of years.
Yes. So now that there's no echo, we are ready to talk some offensive line. Who is, you know what? The biggest thing I asked people actually, I think that was on Twitter, Chad, or X, whatever. Sorry. Do you have that? Do you have Twitter up or no? X, whatever.
I don't. I can bring it up real quick.
I did put a poll up asking what they think about our offensive line. What would you rate them from 99 to 90, 89 to 80?
Yeah.
79, and we got.
I mean, it's Browns fans, man. They're going to give it 100.
No, they didn't. We actually got a
They
decent
did?
response
Oh,
out of it.
wow.
I think it was like.
Well, they weren't. They weren't.
A lot of them gave it like a 70 to
What?
70 to 80 or something, 70 to 81.
Yeah,
That's insane.
Yes, Brit Thanos. So, I can't talk about this yet, but there's going to be a story coming out soon. 2 articles actually that are coming from this show, and you guys will see those soon.
We're not only good with the sports talk, but we can write. Well, meaning, not me, but other guys can write on the show. And I'm telling you, these articles are going to be legit. So look out for it.
Okay, so I got our offensive line, the poll. So 29% of our fans rated the offensive line from last season, remember. So it was a little tricky. A lot of people did comment and say this is tricky because they were good when they were healthy and then they were so unhealthy later. But 29% gave them a 70 to 79. About 43% gave them an 80 to an 89, so a B. And then another 29% even with the first one gave them a 90 to 99. So 30% A, about 40+% B, and 30% C.
And we've had this conversation. Not only was half of our offensive line out, but the secondary, they came in and conquered, man. They did pretty damn well.
Mm-hmm.
I mean,
so there's reasons to be optimistic and pessimistic about that, however you want to look at it. The negative side of it is like, should it worry you that so many of these guys, especially at tackle, have gotten injured, and that Joel Bitonio, for the first time in his career, started getting nicked up and missing some snaps? But on the other side, you can think, well, if they do get back healthy, like we hope on the hopeful side, they're going to be a heck of a lot better than last year. So, cautiously optimistic with everybody coming back from these injuries. And then I won't get deep into them, but just a reminder, I'm planning on doing a series here coming up with the guys on just information on the players coming back from injuries this year and what to expect from them. In fact, I just got out of the clinic. My my knee.
Nice.
For those of you listening that can't see, I got a nice little knee
Let's
model
go.
That is Chad's knee. That is Chad's
You're not
really
gonna
see.
get. You're not going to get this anywhere else other than this podcast, where you're going to have knee talk, back talk, whatever injury during the season talk. The clinic is coming soon, dog.
The knee bones connected to the.
So I'm gonna
Dude,
play.
that would be a good intro music. That would be good intro
We'll
music.
probably get a copyright ban from that.
True.
Yeah,
But
they
I'm gonna
shut
play
us down.
I'm gonna play the intro so you guys know what to look for. When you see this intro, you'll know to stay and watch and like it. Ready? This is the premiere of the clinic with Dr. Chad's intro. Ready? That is awesome.
That is going to be a legit segment for this show. I'm telling you, I'm excited about that. When we talked about that, I'm like, dude, I'm pumped. I told my kids
it's obviously
I am not a
it's obviously a
doctor.
passion for me, but I'm excited about it because like even in the media, and I'm not just talking about Browns media, which I rant about all the time, but national media, it drives me nuts how often they are either wrong about an injury, and I get it, not everybody's going to know this stuff, but it's like a pretty big platform to be just wrong about an injury and not like, hey, we're getting ready to talk this segment about Deshaun Watson's shoulder. Should we talk to someone who knows what this is before we do this segment? And they're like, nah, just call it a separated shoulder and let's go.
Oh, the comments. Oh, man.
Brett said that music makes me want to smoke a menthol cigarette.
Oh, man.
Winner. That was hilarious. Good job, Brett. Sorry.
Britt, yeah, that's Britt.
That was good.
That's a male with a female's name. My sister's name is Britt. He's actually a good friend of mine. But his name is Britt.
Phone over here. I just set up my phone over here so I can see a little bit of what's going on in the show. I'm never watching that when we're going, but I wanted to see you put up the intro.
Yeah,
so I'm like, really over here.
I know this is not on the notes, but I'm really excited. I was kind of hoping that we would debut it today. That's why I asked, but I'm really excited for that. Yeah. I think that's something different than most. And like you said, a lot of people on TV get stuff wrong, so I'm glad that we have an expert with us to get it right.
It was funny too because when I was making the intro, I sent it to Chad, and he's like, "Since when is a doctor rock and roll or metal?" I'm like, "I'm sorry, dude. It's what's gonna happen."
Welcome. He's like, "Welcome to the clinic."
It was too. It was.
I was like, "Wow."
I don't sound like a doctor at all. I sound like a drug addict.
Nothing's more metal. Nothing's more metal than a PhD.
That's what we should have called that segment.
So yeah, let's get back on it.
Yeah.
Okay, so since we had already mentioned the injuries, we should just say at least who's coming off of them, and it's all three of our tackles. It's for those who don't remember, Jed Wills tore his MCL at the end of the season. The first game of the season, Jack Conklin tore both his ACL and his MCL, the ACL being the worst of the two injuries. And DeJuan Jones also left with a season-ending MCL tear. So that's three tackles that all had to finish the season on IR with the same injury or Conklin's being a little worse. Fortunately for Conklin, his happened very early in the season, so it was tough to miss that much time, but he's going to be coming into training camp with almost a full year of rehab and behind his back. And his surgery was early. We talked a little bit about Nick Chubb having similar ligaments torn, but Nick Chubb got injured in
second game
in September in the second game, but didn't have his surgeries until October, late September, I think, and then November. So big difference in timetable for those injuries, not to mention there's just more of them. So I don't know where you guys want to start. I think obviously the big talk is who's playing tackle for us. I think the interior is a little more set. So do you guys have any
What I mean, what are the options? Honestly,
Yeah, I guess there's 3 different options, right? It's either Jed Wills is on the left and Conklin gets back from this injury and goes back on the right, status quo, just how you expected this, or just how you started the year last year. Or Jed Wills plays the left and DeJuan Jones overtakes Jack Conklin, and or Jack Conklin isn't ready and he's on the right side. Or Jed Wills underperforms and DeJuan Jones is too good to keep off the field and you move him to the left side. And then you have Jack Conklin covering the right side. So there's really 3 different scenarios that I
4.
think every Browns fan should keep realistically.
Because isn't Wills originally a right tackle?
Yes.
If Conklin can't play, put Wills back on right tackle, put
You're
DeJuan
right.
Jones on left. Let's see how that works. That's an option.
He was a right tackle, I believe, all through college because isn't Tua left-handed?
Yes.
Yeah.
So they actually played him on the right because that is the left tackle position, the blind side for
Blind
Tua.
side, yeah.
So that's a unique situation too for him. Yeah, I mean, I think I would say now that you've mentioned it, all of 4 of those scenarios are something possible, both because all 3 players are coming off an injury and we can't guarantee they're not going to have any setbacks or issues through camp. I know none of them are going to be put through the ringer in camp. They're not the type of players you're like, let's just crush them in training camp and getting them ready. They've all played, they've all experienced, they've all shown an ability to be a starter in the league. So the Browns are going to play them as appropriate based on their injury status. On a plus side, Jack Conklin has already had an injury history, and when he had a patellar tendon tear, which to me is one of the 2 worst injuries in football, he was able to come back about, I think, the 3rd game of the season after getting hurt the previous year and right into form. I mean, he was a little bit weaker of a run blocker that year. I just don't know if he had the full push and full strength of that leg back, but his pass blocking was as good as ever, and he didn't lose a step there. So I think you can feel good knowing if he's not ready for the beginning of the season, when he's ready, he'll be okay. And if he is ready for the beginning of the season, you don't have to crush him in preseason to get him reps. He's going to be able, he knows how to step in and play. Whereas like DeJuan Jones filled in last year, but he played a ton in the preseason. Like he couldn't have been, we didn't expect him to play. That was a surprise. And I think he really showed up.
He did.
But he played more reps than anyone on our team in preseason. He was chubby and out of shape when he came to camp. And they really said, hey, you need to get in shape. And if we want to know you're dedicated, we want you to play every snap at tackle in this first preseason game. And he was just like, okay, let's do it.
No, Britt, I don't think we picked up anybody in the undrafted free agency on the offensive line. We did not.
I don't think so either. And we'll get to the predicted roster, but I will say this is the other position that we have a bit of a wealth at. So I know that'll lead a bunch of people to say, like, why don't you trade Jack Conklin then? Well, nobody's going to trade for a guy that's coming off rehab and they can't run through a physical. Sorry, guys. That's all 3 of our tackles.
And
so very unlikely, not to mention, after you lose 3 tackles in the same season, do you really want to go into the next year without any of them?
right.
You really want them all on the roster, right?
The answer is no.
First and foremost, honestly, I want to thank the Cleveland Browns medical staff, because them guys bust their ass and they're trying to do the best they can to get these guys back on the field. So a little appreciation to them people, and Chad as well, because he is our show doctor.
Do you guys find it at all strange that they made some medical staff and training staff changes and put a new head of like health and wellness on the team the year after having the most players on IR in the entire NFL?
Is it kind of
I
weird?
know
The
some
guy
of them
looks
are
like you a
coincidences.
little bit.
That's not how injuries work, where it's like, oh, everybody got injured because they're out of shape. But they probably were thinking like, hey, we want to make sure these guys are as healthy as possible. Let's try to get some longevity out of these fellas.
Yes.
So do you guys have out of those 4 scenarios we talked about for left tackle, I wouldn't ask what you would want to happen, but what do you think? What do you think it will play out, and how do you think the Browns are going to start week one, month one? We'll say week one. There could be injury stuff still going on, but the first month of the season, who do you think is the Browns starting to at tackle?
I think they start with Jed and Conklin, what they originally have, because they think it worked, so we're gonna make it work until it no longer works. And I think if they need to be, they have the flexibility to move it around. If Conklin sucks or if he gets hurt again, you got Thanos to step in and you got your versatility. Maybe they do that switch where they put Wills on the right and then Thanos back on the left, and maybe they'll say that works, and then they realize they wasted money on Conklin this year.
I'm gonna have to go with. Man, I don't like Jedrick Wills. We've had this conversation numerous times as well. We pay the guy, we sign him. He's here. He's got 1 year left on his contract, I believe. Correct.
Mm-hmm.
So
Yeah.
With that being said, I don't want to see Conklin, or I'm sorry, I do not want to see Jedrick Wills out there. Put Jones out there. Worst case scenario, if Conklin's not ready to come back game one, like I said, put Wills back over to the right and put Jones on the left. See what happens. What's the worst that could happen? For game one, Dallas Cowboys,
Jones
I'll be
couldn't
there.
play on the left. I was just going to say Jones isn't very good on the left, and Wills has gotten out of sync
Better.
playing the right, and the Dallas Cowboys beat the heck out of you and hurt Deshaun Watson. That's the worst thing that's happened.
Damn it.
There
When
you
it
go.
comes
Now
to
let's
tackle-
put it that way.
Well, that's
All right,
what's
here.
so tough about tackle. It's not like let's throw out Cedric Tillman and see how he does at receiver, because what could happen? But when you're mixing around your tackles and you don't have them ready to play at their position, what could happen is, Deshaun Watson gets slammed to the ground in game one and aggravates the shoulder, and your whole season is ruined. That's why this becomes such an important topic, right?
Yeah.
It is, and it's very important. And I'm sure they're trying to come up with some kind of analysis that's going to make it better for the team. We need to
Yeah, and
protect
they're not
our
going to show
quarterback.
us probably because they don't want it to be a story. But I would be shocked if they're not, especially with the injuries. They have an excuse to sit. Oh, Jed, you're coming off this injury. How about you have a rehab day on Wednesday? And they put DeJuan on the left side, and then they talk to Garrett, and they watch the film, and they look through things, and they go, "What do we think? Is this a possibility if we need to go this route?" And they can figure that out.
And I mean,
They just won't do it on one of the 6 media days because
It'll be blown up. Yeah.
and Jedrick
It
Wills
definitely
threw
get blown up.
1,152 snaps, has allowed 24 quarterback hurries, 11 quarterback hits, and 6 sacks. It's not horrible, but his 6 of 8 penalties in 2022 came from holding. He holds a lot because he gets lazy. I think the dude's lazy.
There's a lot of, and I can't say whether he's lazy, but there's a lot of people feel the same way as you because he has like what you can only describe as lapses, where like you watch the film and on one play it's just like he gets stood up and run past, and you're like, how did that happen?
Right.
How is he blocking for 90% of the game really well, and then just on these handful of snaps he just whips, and people think he just either lacks concentration and he loses concentration like a guy that drops too many passes, or he like just takes plays off. And I hope it's the first or it's the second and they account for it and get it figured out. But he's got a lot. I'll tell you this, he's got a lot to play for this year because he's going, I think the NFL in general probably respects him as a decent young tackle. But if he looks like he looked last year instead of the previous years that he played, teams are going to think twice, and he's going to miss out on a lot of money.
It's just like the ADHD kicks in. He's like squirrel, just gives up sometimes, and I hate that. I do not.
So you're going with DeWand and Jed, Angel, and then you're going with DeWand and Conklin. So that's fun because we all have different ones. Because I'm still going with Jedrick Wills on the left.
Yeah. No.
and
I do.
Conklin on the right.
No, that was my answer. I think they stick with the original.
Okay.
The original lineup,
So
what they intended to.
well, then I
last year.
changed my mind. Then I changed my mind.
No, because I think
Then I
they
agree.
know it's. I think the analytics shows that it works if they're healthy. And I know we're big. A lot of people are big on Jed and his issues with his mind, and you do. There's arguments with that, but if he is mentally there, he is good. He is
I've
a
got
solid player.
I've got like three kind of like, we'll call them, they're not really statistics, but three kind of fact type things and a comparison that is going to kind of somewhat drive Browns fans
I like this
who have
comparison.
the mindset like Mike a little bit crazy. The first one I'll say is regarding Jedrick Wills. Like, actually, before we even get to these, the best thing I would say is, Browns fans, I would like you all to just clear your mind, take a deep breath,
Put on some ocean music.
think back to when each of these players started their career. I think the issue I have with Browns fans who are very, very in love with DeJuan Jones, and I watched him, I loved him, I think he has incredible potential. I'm glad he's only turning 23 years old this year, and we have him under contract for this year and 2 more after that. Like, the sky is the limit, right? I guess my negative is fans, much like we talked about with Emerson, seem to downgrade a first rounder and upgrade a third rounder because they under and overperform their position. So I guess my thought would be, before the whole world assumes DeJuan Jones played, first of all, everybody thinks he played like all pro football last year. He was abysmal against the run, just awful. He was incredible against the pass. On the right tackle, though, that's the side you're running an awful lot, and you have to be able to block the run. So I would also like people to take into account he has a lot of work to get better. And I just wanted to throw back a reminder of people all of a sudden hate Jack Conklin because they think he's gotten hurt too much. But Jack Conklin has been a 2-time first team All-Pro. You guys know what that means?
It's hard to do.
It's not like a
As
Pro
Donald
Bowl
Trump
where
would
it's like
say, that's huge.
it's huge. It's not like a Pro Bowl where they're like, well, we're gonna let you guys vote, and there's gonna be 4 tackles on the AFC side and 4 tackles on the NFC side, and if a couple people drop out, we'll bring a couple more in. This is the writers vote, and they say 2 people can play on the first team, 1 on the left, 1 on the right. Twice, Jack Conklin has been voted as the absolute best right tackle in the game. He's a 2-time All-Pro, which cannot be overstated how good that actually is. And then so that's kind of just, he's got a very consistent career. He is injured too much, but they have 3 tackles, and all 3 of them can probably play the right side. So I think people have the mentality of hold him out because he's injured a lot, but play him. He's one of the oldest tackles and he's under contract. Your best chance of not having trouble with him is if you play him and he plays well. And if he doesn't, everybody's dream of getting DeJuan back in there or switching Jed to the other side is happening. So it's
Same
like you
with Jed,
can't lose
yes.
that way, right?
It's a win-win.
And you have him under contract and you're paying him a lot. Probably not tradable. You can't cut him. You're going to take a huge cap hit. But like the thought of like holding him out because you're worried he'll get hurt again. If you think he'll get hurt again, just play him. When he gets hurt again, DeJuan will be in there. And then the last thing I wanted to bring up is these guys were all started their career incredible. Jack Conklin got all pro and was voted to the all rookie team his rookie year. He made all pro again in 2020, which is great. Last year, people remember DeJuan Jones had a great rookie season and he made the all rookie team, which is not a surprise. What would probably surprise most people is that 3 years before that, Jedrick Wills had an incredible rookie season and made the all-rookie team at left tackle, the harder position. So before everybody takes the stand of like, Conklin stinks now and Wills stinks now and DeJuan is the only great tackle on his team, he just did what all the other tackles have done. Don't put in your mind that it's a guarantee he's going to take a step forward and get better and better. Jedrick Wills didn't, and Jack Conklin got hurt. So just keep it the evenness in your mind that like they all did what he just did last year when they were rookies too. And by the way, the last thing I want to bring up before this rant ends is everybody that keeps messaging me on social media to say we can't play Jack Conklin because he always gets injured. One player on this team has never finished a professional football season, and that person's name is DeJuan Jones.
Yeah.
He got injured last year, and he has never finished the season. He has 0 professional football seasons where he played all 16 games.
I
or
just
17.
realized the correlation is all those other linemen did not go to the Ohio State University. So there's no shade of
What a
favoritism.
shocker.
Yet we're not going to give them any. It's
Okay.
our new
I didn't
toy,
even
man.
think of that,
Let
but you're
us
probably
play.
right.
Let us play with
love
our new
Ohio State.
toy. Okay, it's a new
I'll
toy.
just say, and I already said it. I think because they drafted him in the 3rd round and people think he was a steal, they're upping him, and he
Yeah.
was very good. But like, don't make him a B level player to like an A plus just because you drafted him earlier, because you have other players on the team. So it's a good scenario to just clear your mind, let camp play out. Whoever shows they can play this position, go, and then you've got one of them who is going to be an incredible, maybe the best backup tackle in the league, sitting behind them. Rant over.
I think so. Him coming out of Ohio State is cool. We all love that. We like keeping people here. That's what we like to do. Andrew Berry loves Ohio kids and bringing them
Hometown
back here.
kids,
We know this. It's happened. I think the kid has a point to prove, and that he not only wants to be in the NFL, he wants to be a Cleveland Brown because he's from Streetsboro, Ohio. This kid busts his ass.
Another reason fans probably love him.
Well, yeah,
Ding.
absolutely.
Love these local
Absolutely.
kids, man.
But he busts his ass his rookie year. He came out here.
Yep.
He showed up. He showed people what he's capable of doing. Was it always the best? Not always. Was the kid good his rookie year? Because we talked about this several times where it takes 2 to 3 years for a player to develop. I think this kid's going to develop fast, and it's something that it could be insane. Nobody knows.
By the way, when people see the article we contributed to,
oh man,
in a couple weeks, they're gonna come back at me and be like, "What are you talking about, you idiot?"
Like, what do you mean?
Spoiler alert! It's obviously has something to do with tackles, but I'll just say without saying too much, it's going to be a bit of a surprise the direction that we went. The last thing on this before we move on to the guards is just another thing to drive fans crazy about Jedrick Wills is, what if I were to tell you to take a look at the career of David Njoku?
Don't do that.
That is a player drafted in the first round.
They are emotionally attached to David. You cannot compare David to Jed. Don't do that. But it
Here's
makes
how
sense.
you can do it.
It makes sense.
David Njoku, drafted in the first round, athletic as heck, super gifted, came out in his career and had a little bit to learn, but showed a lot his rookie year. And then when everybody expected, and as his sophomore and junior year come here, he's going to take this giant leap. Instead, there was drop passes. There was a little bit of injury issues. There was him getting in the doghouse with the coaches about his effort. There was trade requests, him asking to be traded like 3 different times. And then there was the Browns signing him to an extension to everyone's surprise because he kept asking out of town, and fans were incredibly frustrated with him not living up to being a first rounder. And then just fast forward a short year or 2 later, and everybody's like, we
he's
love
the king
David
of Cleveland
Njoku.
again.
He's awesome. Now that he's like finally come around, I'm so glad we signed him early, and he turned into what we always hoped late in his career, in his mid to late 20s, which, by the way, is Ed Wills 25 right now. Jack Conklin, I think, is 29, and I'm pretty sure DeJuan Jones is turning 23 in August, so 23 in training camp. It'll be 23, 25, and 29. I'm just saying, don't have a heart attack if he looks pretty good and they decide to extend him or something, because there's always a chance a player can do that. David Njoku is the example.
Really quick, Paul said, I think Jed will be cheaper to keep here long term. Got to keep the salary cap in the back of your mind.
That's true. And that's why you want young talent. You want to develop them slowly. You don't want to rush into talent.
We owe Jack Conklin a lot this year, and a big, huge chunk off the cap if we were to cut him, and it's just not going to happen. If he's injured, he may not get paid because he may not be able to take the field. But if he's healthy, they're going to have to pay him whether he plays or not. After this year, and then even better as time goes by in 2026 and on, much less cap hit, much more realistic to move on from him or trade him. So just keep that in mind. For this year,
Chad, you got to watch comments, man.
Yeah.
Dylan said Chad's not allowed to talk about the Chief anymore.
You see what happens when you bring up a
I
valid
love
point?
David Njoku. I'm saying, we
But when you
loved
make
him
sense, you offend
once he
people.
came around, right?
No one liked him
Don't
until
tell
he
David
started.
Njoku.
Yeah,
Hey, Dylan.
Don't
Chad
tell
says,
It's a
"Stop
valid
being
that I
point.
compared them.
I mean that's a legitimate take. Like you can't compare Jed Wills and David Njoku. I know they don't like that because they don't like Jed Wills. But if you look at the trajectory of the
You
talent,
got to remember.
you got to remember Njoku. We were saying, what is this guy dropping passes? He's wide open. Now we're like, let's put a
This dude's
crown
a
on this
saint.
dude. Who
Right.
Long
LeBron?
live the
Give him the
Chief.
key to
Yeah,
the
Long
city.
live the Chief.
LeBron who? Like come on.
And
Chad.
he became Cleveland. Like the longer he was asking for trades after like his third year because like the coaches didn't like him because it just wasn't working. And then they worked it out. He made his place here, and now he couldn't be more Cleveland.
He's actually doing a fashion show and for Sweetest Day if you want to go, Chad. Maybe we can all show up there, buy a ticket.
Let me guess, it's in
It's
California.
a fashion. No, it's actually in Cleveland, downtown Cleveland.
Hey, you guys are so bougie over there.
Oh, man. Damn it. I tried to pass that along to California, and it's in Cleveland, of course.
Okay, we're moving
Chad,
on to the interior.
Chad,
The reason why I brought
Britt
that up
said
is because he's so Cleveland. That's why.
Chad, Britt Mitchell said, you are officially Dr. Evil.
I knew fans were. I'm like, I'm gonna
Yeah.
say these two things about their histories, and
They
then
hate
David Njoku
Here,
thing.
could I bring up the next?
Everybody's gonna be
I want to
mad
bring
at
up the
me.
next
I get
guy
it.
really
I
quick.
deserve it.
Ethan Posick. I know we want to move the guards. We're a little
All interior.
behind.
Push the interior together.
Ethan Posick is a monster. The guy can snap the ball and he can block like a mofo. I love the kid. I think he's a great addition to this roster. He's not. I'm not going to say it. Never mind. I'm not going to say that. He is a great kid. I like what he's doing. Your quarterback can only be as good as your offensive line. Honestly, that goes without saying. I'd imagine everybody could agree with that.
By the way, I agree. Ethan Pochik, he wasn't even like he got brought in. He was good. By the way, fun fact: he also was on his all-rookie team. We have 4 of our 5 starting linemen and potentially a 5th lineman who's coming off the bench. All made their all-rookie team and was the best player at their position when they got drafted. And we somehow snatched 3 guys from other teams who are Pro Bowl level guys. That's incredible work by the front office to make that happen.
You just gave us a Barry Shuck idiom.
Bum, bum, bum.
Yeah, fun fact. It was but Joel Bitonio made the all-rookie team. Ethan Pochich made the all-rookie team. Wyatt Teller didn't because, as we know, in Buffalo, he just didn't get any play as a rookie, and then we scooped him up. He's been a Pro Bowl level guy since. Jack
Talk about
Conklin
that
made
really
the
quick.
all-rookie team.
Bring that
DeJuan
up.
Jones made the all-rookie team.
Awesome. Bring that up. We stole him from Buffalo. There was a trade. And the Buffalo Bills made out pretty well, but so did the Cleveland Browns. For a 5th round draft pick, we made out pretty well.
You said before they used that 5th rounder to help in the Diggs trade. It was a piece of the Diggs trade, though. Let's not go over the
Right. It
the
wasn't
edge
the
like
whole
people
trade.
do. Yeah, like people do with.
So
like
we
the,
could have got Diggs.
Texans.
No.
Yeah. People are like, oh,
That's
then
what
we
they
blew
would have
it.
said. Yeah, we blew it. We could have
It was
got
a piece
Diggs.
of the
Right.
trade.
Clarify that
But we did.
now.
We gave up a 5th round pick, and I think you said we also got a 7th, I think, in return. But we got Wyatt Teller. We put him in with this line, and he has fit all the offensive schemes we've played so far. And I think he had maybe one semi-down year where he just wasn't a top 10 guy.
Mm.
If all that a down year. Otherwise, he has been a Pro Bowl level consistent stud. He even ranked one year on PFF, I think it was 2 years ago, as the #1 guard in football which Joe Bitonio has also done in the past. They've both been top 5 more than 3 times. I think Wyatt 4 and Bitonio 5 or 6. That's incredible consistency for like the heart of your interior.
Well, you got right guard and left guard right now. PFF ranking: Wyatt Teller's 72.7 and Bitonio's a 67.9.
Yeah, I think he played through a lot of injuries last year, so I think that this was probably his worst year. But I think he played a lot. I'm trying to remember. I know he had an ankle injury and he played through a lot of it. He did miss some time, but he tried to play the most he could. But I think when you know him and you've seen his whole career versus just last year, you're like, okay, we know what he is. And when it was crunch time, he made the blocks. And so I'm not worried about him at all.
I'm not worried about our offensive line at all, really, anymore. As long as nobody gets hurt. That's our biggest worry this year. As long as the offensive line stays healthy, I think Deshaun Watson, not even with the backups, we did pretty damn good last year. But I think with our starters, we have an just amazing amount of not only morale built on that line, but it's going to be insane. I don't think he's going to get sacked as much. I don't think he's going to have to try to rush out of the pocket as much. There won't be as many pressures. That's just me being the Cleveland fanboy, as Chad would like to call it, a homer. But yeah, I think if our offensive line stays healthy, it's not going to be a huge ordeal this year, and everybody's going to fall in love with Deshaun Watson if he has a good year and stays healthy as well. I think. And
then more rankings for the interior of the line. PFF has Ethan Pocic rated 7th going into the season. Wyatt Teller rated 9th for guards, and Joel Bitonio rated 6th.
Top 10.
3 top 10 players in the interior of your line, and then 3 tackles that we know can get the job done if they can get healthy and get consistent. That's going to be mean. Sorry if Nick Chubb can't make it back early. These other running backs are going to have to be able to show something besides that quality of behind that quality of an offensive line.
And if you guys want to watch our running back episode, that was a couple of weeks ago. Feel free to jump on YouTube, follow us, like us, subscribe, hit that little bell. You guys know what the drill. Yeah.
We nailed that one, by the way. If I do say so myself.
We did.
That was a good one.
In my opinion,
2 hours later,
it's like a bar ranking like the best Mai Tai in America, but like the bar just puts a sign. In my opinion, best running back show ever done for the Browns.
That was good. So, we got in depth, really in depth.
Okay, so we're closing out the roster. The starters are obvious. We got Jed Wills, Joel Bitonio, Ethan Pocic, Wyatt Teller, Jack Conklin, DeJuan Jones. Some group of those 6 are starting 5. And then we went with a pretty early 3rd-round pick for a guard, which, by the way, is where you get a pretty darn good guard with Zach Zinter, who's just a mauler out of Michigan. Some people think he fell in the draft because he came into the draft process with a broken leg from Mike Hall, surprise, of the Cleveland Browns also.
What do you think that meeting's like in the locker room?
That is a they've asked him about it. Like, are you guys going to end up locker mates? And then the other guy that I think is pretty close to a lock to make the roster is Brian Allen. He's a free agent center that the Browns brought in this year, and they gave him a fair amount of a contract, which makes me think, okay, their expectation is he's making this team. We'll see if somebody else really steps up. Maybe it's a savings. Maybe the money's not guaranteed. So that covers 8 linemen. Last year, there were 9 on the Browns roster. So that leaves Hakeem Adeniji, who's a backup tackle, he's like 37 or something. He's an older guy. He's been in the league for a long time. Besides last year, which was a down year for him, he's been pretty consistently a starting level tackle. So a good veteran person to have around. And then another guy with a great shot, Luke Whippler. He was a late round draft pick of theirs, I believe also out of Ohio State a year ago. He can play center. That's what he was drafted as. But last year he filled in for guard when the guys were out, and he played very well at guard, making me think, okay, that's a versatile position where if somebody like Brian Allen doesn't work out, gets hurt, or if you just have an extra roster spot, somebody who can play 3 positions along the line is pretty big. Michael Dunn may be on his way out. He's always been a decent backup.
Yeah.
James Hudson has been rough last year, especially. I do not believe, unless there's a giant change, he's making this team. And then there's Javion Cohen, who is a rookie guard that they brought in undrafted free agency. I'm thinking probably a practice squad candidate. I can't imagine he'll outplay that level of talent above him. And that's it.
I
We
agree,
nailed
but
it. We only went over by like 14 minutes.
It's not bad.
Bing.
Not bad. I
There's-
like that, Angel. You got to do
I
that
got to
every
be
time.
honest. I should never put myself in charge of the timer today because I would talk about offensive line.
He was at,
Forever.
yeah.
I'm like, we're at 24 out of 20 minutes, and I'm like, yeah, we could keep going for another 10
Yeah.
minutes.
It's not bad to go
Okay,
over. I just
so-
don't want to do a 2-hour show every week.
That's almost everything. So we got about 10 minutes left. Let's try to knock through the
Close this
final
up.
camp wrap up. And
we
then
got
we
9
will shut it
minutes.
down.
9 minutes and 30 seconds.
All right, you ready?
Yo.
So first off-season topic we might as well hit is Deshaun Watson's progress.
It's not a Browns
We've hit-
podcast without a quarterback talk.
We've hit it before. It's the biggest story.
Yeah.
Have you guys heard anything new, different, or like what was your feeling rolling out camp?
I feel that the Browns waited till the end of camp to really let him zip the ball, which was encouraging, so the media can be happy and not talk about and how worried they are about that. So that was a good move by the Browns, and they've been strategic with that throughout the camp.
I didn't
I
think about
appreciate
that, but that is pretty good that he still has a month of basically rest after minicamp before training camp starts, and they were able to show you
What
he
he
can
had.
throw it now,
Yeah.
and he's still got a month of rehab and recovery. He'll be fine. Was I probably their take? That's good. I
Yeah.
don't know if they did that strategically, but that would have been
No, that's the cheat. I'm telling you, Andrew Barry
Okay.
is a genius
I
when
buy it.
handling Cleveland media. He's like, oh, let's pull him away. Now, before we go, so they could calm their little emotional butts down, let's just let him zip the ball. And he zipped it, man, from what I saw on the
It
internet.
looked good. The ball looked good.
Yeah.
I've been watching throws from some of the rookies. I watched throws from
Elijah Moore.
even guys I think who can play. I've always thought Kirk Cousins was better than the general consensus. When I watch him throw right now, coming off that leg injury, the ball doesn't look good as Watson coming off his arm injury.
Yeah.
That doesn't mean it won't continue to get better, but like that feels good to me.
Great.
So,
I will be right back, guys.
Okay.
All
He's like, no, I like the Watson thing. And I like his progression. He's looking encouraging, and you're seeing less
I
hate
love that he
chatter.
walks away.
Yeah,
and just
you see it fade
disappears
away.
into the Browns background. Like the Homer
him-
Simpson like bushes thing.
Yeah.
For everybody that can't
That's-
see him, he just escaped into the Browns flag behind him.
That's how he should leave, as the Homer Simpson
time.
meme. Every time he'll just slowly back away. But yeah, I'm encouraged by that. I was encouraged by him, and you see a lot less chatter. Other than the whole contract talk, with people will continue to talk anyways. Who cares?
Okay. The next big story is Jerry Jeudy missed some of that mini camp with
An
an
undisclosed
That is what
injury.
it was. I searched and searched, and I can't find anything. But I also couldn't find anyone, writers, people at the camp, or coaches that showed any concern at all. So I have to think it's probably like a little tweak of something, and they're like, let's not even get into it. We don't need the attention. He'll be
Yeah.
fine, obviously, for training camp, so let's just not touch it. On the negative of that, like you want him out there, of course. On the positive, some other guys, Moore missed
Play.
some time in camp. Judy missed some time in camp.
And-
Cooper missed the whole camp. So guys like Cedric Tillman, all of a sudden,
Gets the
Rep.
spotlight.
right? David Bell get reps.
I feel like I've been gone forever. What happened?
We
Okay.
talked about the Judy undisclosed injury, which is very good from the Browns' perspective because no one's talking. Even if it's small, maybe no one said anything, which is a good culture
Yeah.
thing.
Yeah, so Cedric Tillman, I think, was the highlight where he played a lot, and I don't know. I think people were pretty positive about his progress. It is National Football Positivity season in minicamp, but I think all of the reports were good that his route tree looks a little better. He has better concentration. He knows the offense better. He looks trim and fast. And so, if you're
Yeah,
into the
he's-
positivity, feeling
yeah.
good.
He's the X factor, man. I know we probably should talk about that later on in the season. But I think he
Stop.
can be the X factor in this in it, because I think if he's good, then your future in that area is less worrisome as in your wide receiver room as far as youth.
My thought is similar to the tackle thought. I still expect the starting group to be the guys under contract for the big players. So Judy, they brought in to be a starter, obviously, whether he's out wide or the slot. Obviously, Cooper is going to get they're going to get him figured out. He's under contract this year, so he's playing this year one way or another. He's not going to give up $20 million in order to try to make future money. That doesn't make sense. So, yeah, so those two are going to be playing. I still think Elijah Moore is going to be the receiver in 3 receiver sets, only based on the fact that they have one more year with him. He's very young at like 23 years old, and it's a good year to see what he is and whether he has a place on this team in the future. And also, he's under his last year contract. You might as well throw him out there. You're not worried about injuries, longevity, and he's just the most proven player. I think the X factor part of Tillman is he is the one guy on this team with the physical setup to maybe move into that other outside role, which actually led Zach Jackson to release a story where he was talking about camp, and he said, I fully expect Cooper to be one outside receiver, Tillman to be the other, and Judy to be playing mostly in the slot. And it's made it around all over the internet as like a done deal. But to me, I'm not putting my money on that yet, but I could see the scenario, what you just described, where he comes out, he shows himself, and they're like, I know we have Moore on this team too, but Moore can play the slot, or he can back up on the outside. Let's rotate him in. Our matchup nightmare is Tillman is too big for a lot of cornerbacks to cover. Let's get him out there.
And I see a lot of that. Yeah. Sorry, go ahead, Angel.
No, I would say you have then Judy. He's long and lanky. Have him in a slot. You have 2 long, lanky receivers out there. That would help.
And that's going to be huge this year, because you've seen in camp a lot of Cedric Tillman, a lot. And then you've seen some Elijah Moore. Those are going to be 2 guys. Honestly, Joe Flacco had no problem throwing to him. Elijah Moore, they were in the Jets together.
And it's a David Bell. We all agree it's a David Bell make or break year. He's been in the league for a couple of years now. He showed one good game.
Playoff game.
It was at the end of the year, so it's like, okay, that's a good time to do it.
Yeah.
But we need to see something that makes you think a younger guy can't step in that spot, or a free agent can't be pulled in that spot. I don't think he's going anywhere this year. This was more of my plea for, I think he needs to get on the field and show something that makes them think he's worth having on this team in the future. So
great.
Yep.
Agree.
The other guy that got a lot of big hype that I heard from like a handful of guys at practice was Matt Landers. He's a wide receiver. I don't know that much about him. I don't think he's a rookie. I think he was a rookie last year, and they pulled him from somewhere.
He got
you guys might have to check me on that
and
one.
He's an undrafted free agent, correct?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I forget where he was.
American football, National College. He played college at Georgia, Toledo, and Arkansas. Arkansas. 99. He was born 6'4". That's a good. Undrafted 2023.
Yeah, who grabbed him and let him go? That's what I'm trying to remember.
Okay. So
was the Titans on
okay,
waivers.
I'll tell you right now. He played Seattle in 2023, Carolina, the Arlington Renegades, San Antonio Brahams, and then the Cleveland Browns. So he was in the UFL.
So he was undrafted. The team I was thinking of was Seattle that brought him in and gave him a shot. I'm not shocked you don't end up making that roster. For a little while, they were loaded at wide receiver.
Carolina.
And so I guess the basically some people were saying like, I don't know, maybe this guy's a late bloomer. He was making like huge plays, and they were even some of the guys recognized, like, I know that a lot of things can happen in camp without the pads. They're like, but this guy has made like 70-yard catches on like 8 occasions where like you're just watching, they're playing 7-on-7s, and they acknowledge, this kind of stuff sometimes happens in camp. Guys can look good. They're like, but other guys on the team weren't doing that. Like just Elijah Moore wasn't doing it. David Bell wasn't doing it. This kid just has this breakaway speed to just get himself open and take off with a long ball, knowing that the Browns, he's obviously not very well known, and it's a chance he could sneak onto the practice squad, or it's going to be tough to make this team at receiver. But it was just a player that I heard enough about that I think is worth telling the listeners. Keep your eyes peeled. This is a guy when training camp starts in 3 weeks, you might start hearing this name, and it's probably somebody you'll see a lot of in the preseason games.
Hey, do you guys know this is the last calendar month of no football?
I know they're starting in 3 weeks. It's awesome. Hey, you guys know who our next bubble player to get ready for in camp is?
Let me see. Well, I know because I'm looking at the notes.
Our homeboy. It's our boy, Trayton Welch. Anything you'd like to say about Trayton Welch, Mike?
Come on the show.
You guys will see what I think about Trayton Welch. I actually contacted him, and we might have him on the show here soon. There's a lot I can say about the kid, but we're going to save that for when he comes on the show, if he does.
Okay. I hope that's the case.
If he
I
doesn't
would just
answer the
say
email,
that
I'm
he's
gonna
on this
call him.
list
I got
as
his
a
phone
camp
number.
watch. The camp watches are guys that you might never even heard their name, or you don't even know they're on this roster. Those are two guys that have a legitimate chance to show up in camp and preseason, and they're the type of guys that you'll probably hear some buzz around. Trayton Welch, I used to live with a tight end for the Chargers who is very kind of similar path to what Trayton Welch might be able to do, where kind of didn't come out of college with some giant fanfare, wasn't an early draft pick, had a skill set that didn't blast off in any one category, but could do a little bit of everything, and found a role between special teams and a backup role for blocking and being able to catch the ball when it actually comes to you, that I could see that being a realistic possibility. So keep your eye on those guys.
Out of all the undrafted free agents we've had in quite some time, this is the kid I have the most faith in. Watch his highlight videos. That's all I got to tell you.
Highlights, man.
If you have a lot of faith in that kid over the undrafted free agents we have, knowing that we have guys like Ronnie Hickman, who are legit players on that team, that's pretty big praise, because we've got a couple undrafted free agents who are on this roster.
Hickman Jr. is my guy.
We all do love Hickman. We do, but we're talking about tight ends right now.
Yeah.
All right, that's it for everything we had at least listed down to talk about. You guys got any closing?
Shout out to Stephen Kwan from the Guardians. He made his first All-Star game. All-Star.
Yes. He was a beast. Oh,
All-Star.
Sorry, go ahead, Angel.
All-Star. Jose Ramirez is a starter also. Congratulations, Stephen Kwan.
Those two are incredible. I'm so happy to see what Kwan is doing this year. His consistency is incredible. It's been so fun to watch.
Yep.
Guys, I'm gonna do this thing I have it's called 30 Seconds of Fame. I made this up a month or two ago. I'm gonna run the there's a little brief thing here. I'm gonna ask you guys one question, and I want you all to answer this, okay? So I'm gonna play the thing real quick.
Boy.
You guys watching?
I'm watching.
Ready. All right, here we go. If you guys could pick one respectable player on any Cleveland team to have dinner with, who would it be? Angel.
Any respectable player on the current
yes.
teams? Oh man, I would have said LeBron James.
You lose.
Right now, I would do. Wow, that's hard. That is, wow. Browns.
Your
Indians.
time is ticking.
I would say Deshaun Watson.
Oh, that was a slim to none one, but I
would do Watson because that's my quarterback.
Chad.
It's hard.
He's deep in thought.
No, I would love to have a nice dinner with Joel Batonio.
Ooh, that's
I believe that guy knows how to eat.
Oh,
that
yeah.
would be.
Knows how to eat.
That would be a fun
one. He's been around, and I would love to chat with him about everything he's seen in the last decade.
That's a really good one. I would go with Myles Garrett.
Good one.
Hard to pass, Myles. I just want the picture, the selfie at the end, like I'm having dinner with Myles Garrett.
Yeah.
And it's like 1 hour dinner. You have
Can you
just
sign
1
my
hour
phone?
to talk to this person. And they said it on the radio earlier, and I heard it, and I'm like, man, I got to bring this up in the show tonight because it's kind of a cool thing, you know. Like if you had one person to pick, we all picked Browns players, obviously, but you know, you win some, you lose some, and they were talking about that as well as the Browns being the bigger team in Cleveland.
Well, yeah, and it's funny though. If you had asked me like 3 months ago, I probably would have had my brain like zoned into the Cavs, and I would have said,
Mitchell.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
we're
Donovan
gonna run
Mitchell
a
sounds
show.
pretty good.
We're gonna run that segment every week. It's 30 seconds of fame. I'll ask you guys a serious question, and we each get to answer it. It'd be kind of fun, I think. But yes, that is the end of the show.
One more shout out to Donovan Mitchell. Thank you for signing that contract and being in Cleveland for 3 more years.
Yes.
Oh my God! Thank goodness.
Yeah, we needed that. That's for sure.
Yeah, gives us at least a base to work with.
Yes, and a new coach.
We'll talk another day about whether we want to hold steady with the foundation or you guys are into trading some guys around. But the show for another day. At least we can have that discussion now that they've got these guys under contract.
Yes, but all 137 of you that joined us tonight, we appreciate it. Hit the like, subscribe button. Join us every week. We do this. It's a good time. We have fun. We talk Browns football, and yeah, we want you here every week. So with that being said,
it goes on over exaggerated offensive line rants.
Only an hour over. No big deal. No.
No.
37 minutes and 14 seconds.
I said, I can't believe I put myself in charge of the clock on a day we're talking O-line. I knew that was a mistake.
Dude,
I'll be better next time.
We should have done O-line first. But with that being said, everybody have a happy 4th of July. We'd like to have you back here next week with all your fingers. That'd be great. If you guys could do that. Chad's crossing his fingers. Angel's holding his beard.
Yep.
And well, Chad's a doctor. He can help you guys out if you lose a finger. So
these are important. You guys don't want to go without them.
Yeah, absolutely not. But that being said, thank you guys for joining us tonight, and we will see you guys next week. We don't know what we're going to talk about, but we'll bring it to you.